A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. At that time Jesus withdrew to the region of Tyre and Sidon. And behold, a Canaanite woman of that district came and called out, "Have pity on me, Lord, Son of David. My daughter is tormented by a demon." But Jesus did not say a word in answer to her. Jesus' disciples came and asked him, "Send her away, for she keeps calling out after us." He said in reply, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." But the woman came and did Jesus homage, saying, "Lord, help me." He said in reply, "It is not right to take the food of the children and throw it to the dogs." She said, "Please, Lord, for even the dogs eat the scraps that fall from the table of their masters." Then Jesus said to her in reply, "O woman, great is your faith. Let it be done for you as you wish." And the woman's daughter was healed from that hour. The Gospel of the Lord. Nowadays, we seem to hear so much about the persecution of our fellow Christians in the troubled regions of the Middle East and North Africa. And some of you probably have heard of a Christian woman from Sudan. Her name is Miriam Yahya Ibrahim. About how she was imprisoned by her government and even threatened with death because of her Christian faith. And fortunately, she was able to get out of the country, and recently she met with Pope Francis. Now, when I think of that courageous Christian woman, I'm reminded of another Christian woman from Sudan who, in the year 2000, received the crown of sainthood from Pope John Paul. And to the church, she was first known by the name she was given at baptism, which was Josephine Margaret Fortunata. But to the world, she was known by a name she'd received years beforehand in her native land, and the word that was her name was an Arabic word that meant lucky. And I'm sure she would have said that word described the fate of her life. And so today, we call the saint by that name, Saint Josephine Bakhita. She was born in 1869 in the Darfur region of Sudan, and even back then it was a very lawless area. And at the age of 7, she was kidnapped by slave traders, and she was taken away from her village, and she never saw her family again after that. And the experience was so traumatic to her that she forgot her name. She forgot who she was. And the slave traders decided, well, we will name you. We will call you Bakhita, the lucky one. But she didn't feel very lucky. She was a slave. And she was bought and sold 5 different times when she was growing up. And the different masters just treated her horribly. She was beaten, she was flogged. One master even had designs carved into her skin with a knife. And she was forced to convert to Islam. And her masters told her how worthless she was. One master pointed to the furniture, said, "You see this chair? Do you see this rug? They are worth more than you." But she bore all of that with a lot of courage. And she later said that when these things happened to her, she would look up and see the sun and the moon and the stars. And she would wonder, who could be the master of those wonderful things? And she yearned to know him, to see him, and to do him homage. And when she was 17, she was bought by an Italian diplomat in Khartoum, and she ended up in Italy as the servant of an Italian couple who had a young daughter. She took care of the daughter. And shortly after they got to Italy, both parents had to leave the country and return to Sudan. And so they left their child, their young daughter, and they left Bakita in the custody of the Canossian sisters in Venice. You would think perhaps the parents would have thought, well, when Bakita hears about Christ, she's not going to want to be a slave anymore. But it didn't occur to them. I guess they felt that she was of a different culture, from a different continent, and she wouldn't believe or accept their religion. But when she was with the Canossian sisters, Bakita learned about a different master, a greater master, before whom all of the masters she had known were themselves mere servants. And this master knew her. He had created her, and he loved her. And this master himself had accepted the fate of being beaten, of being whipped. And now he was waiting for her. And to him, she was worth a lot. And so her life was good. So when the Italian couple came back and ordered Bakita to come with them, she refused. She said, "My master wants me to stay here." And they tried to force her, but the sisters intervened, and eventually an Italian court declared that Bakita was free. She could go wherever she wanted, and she chose to remain with the Canossian sisters. And in 1890, when she was 20 years old, she was baptized, and she received the sacrament of First Holy Communion and confirmation. And 6 years after that, she took her vows, and she became one of the Canossian sisters. And for the next half century after that, she served the sisters. She was a doorkeeper and a cook and a sacristan. And she did all of those seemingly menial tasks with such faith, with such humility, with such grace, that the people of the area gave her a new title. To them, she became Madre Moretta, our Black Mother. They called this little nun with the dark skin and the strange name, who made her journey to sainthood in their midst. And today we hear about the Canaanite woman who, like Bakita, came to Christ as an outcast, as a foreigner. And she came, like Bakita, amidst suffering. "Lord, my daughter is tormented by a demon." And we hear of the discrimination that she suffers, and about how Christ tests her to show to his disciples the great faith of this foreigner, the faith that will lead to the cure of her daughter. And if we think about it, Christ is telling us today, he's reminding us of the universal call to faith, to all people at all times, under all circumstances. And especially he reminds us that the call to faith comes to us when we need it most, in times of distress. And we think of Bakita when she was suffering with her earthly masters, how she would look at the sun and the moon and the stars and feel the presence of that greatest master. Now, hopefully none of us will ever have to suffer like Bakita did, but there will be times in our lives when we are alone, when we feel rejected and we're suffering. And at those times, we can remind ourselves that amidst our suffering, amidst our hardship, God is calling each of us to faith. The call that led that Canaanite woman to the side of His Son. And if we follow that call in our worship and like Bakita in our lives, then like her, we will be freed from the chains of despair. And like her, we will truly be lucky.